You want me to do like that?
Yeah, like that.
Okay. Hey guys, welcome to Hurting Little Cows to the Glory of God. We have way too much fun over here. So we're talking about feet right now. It's 9:15. All the children are in their rooms, not all asleep, but all in their rooms. And we're discussing feet and balance issues and stability. That's what we're doing here.
Because we're parents.
Because we're parents and that's what we do. We spend a lot of time talking about health concerns. This is a different video than I was going to make when I turned this camera on.
Bring it on.
So we talk a lot about health concerns in the house because we have a lot of health concerns in the house. Whoa, that was like bumpy. See, no stability issues. I mean, definite stability issues. So for those who don't know, we'll do a short disability video here for people who are new to our channel. So my name is Sarah. I'm married to Mark. We have 7 kids at home. Someone's writing to me. Hold on.
We are broken.
Oh, someone wants me to call them, so I'll call them in a minute. Tell her that I'll call her in a minute.
Okay.
I'm talking to a friend who's selling some books, so I'll call her in a minute. So anyway, if you're new to our channel, my name is Sarah. We deal with some different disabilities in the house, and it affects our daily lives in some very unique ways. And they are daily ways. So if you're new to the channel, I just wanted to explain some of the things we deal with as a family that you will see here on the channel. I deal with a form of muscular dystrophy, depending on who you ask. Maybe it's not a form of muscular dystrophy, but it's called Charcot-Marie Tooth, 3 different names of the people who found it. And it is an atrophy of the muscles in my hands and feet. So that's why we were talking about my feet before we turned on this video. My feet and hands do not have the same muscles. So when I walk, I have to think about walking, and I use the muscle that lifts my big toe to help pick my foot up. And I walk in kind of a clunky manner because I have what's called drop foot, and I can't control picking my foot up to a 90-degree angle to then walk heel toe. So I have a unique gait, and because of that, I have to wear leg braces when I go outside the house. Around the house, I don't wear them. But when we go outside the house, especially if I'm walking on uneven surfaces, it's to protect me from falling and to not hurt my ankles. It has been something I was born with. My parents knew I had it from a young age, but it's something they don't diagnose you with until you're 5. And depending on the child, they can diagnose you just by the symptoms you have. For me, I just didn't have muscles in certain places. I already had feet that weren't working correctly. I have what we refer to as raptor toes. I'm not sure what they're called, but that's what my friends always called them in school. I'm going to see if I can show you. Don't mind the mess. So that's how my feet look. I have really high arches.
Super high arches.
And I have what we call raptor toes.
And they're kind of hammered. So we can stretch them here. She can't straighten them at all.
No, so they've gotten more hammered over time. And so these are my feet in natural resting position. And so I'll move my right foot. It's as much as I can move my right foot. And I'll move my left foot. It's as much as I can move my left foot. So... So it's something that affects us every day. I've kind of just gotten used to the walking because it says I walk around. But something that is getting harder for me is I have trouble opening things. I have to get the kids to open things for me more. Doing buttons or buckles on kids' clothing can be difficult. So sometimes I will get kids dressed and then send them to a sibling to button. Like if the boys are wearing like a button-up shirt, that's hard for me to do. I'm usually okay for like 1 button, like on pants. That's okay. But too many, it's hard. And so I've just noticed that over the past couple years, it's just affected more and more things. Not in any dramatic ways, like, oh, I couldn't do this. Like the buttons on the shirts, I could do those. If nobody else was around, I could button the boys' shirts. But it's very challenging. And so with other people around, it's just easier to have them do it. I think we all have things that are easier. You know, the short person, I'm tall, if you don't know, but you know, the short person who would use a stool to get something, but if there's a taller person around, asking them to get it. For me, being a tall 40-year-old who has some balance issues, if there's something low on the ground, asking one of my kids to, you know, if there was something like fell under the couch, have one of the kids get it. I think we all ask for help in different ways, but I've noticed I've had to ask for help more in those things. Another one you're going to see talked about on our channel is dystonia. My husband Mark has dystonia. Sorry, I'm moving the camera. He was diagnosed, well, he's been kind of on and off diagnosed with different things. Dystonia is not very well known, especially in Maine. We don't have a lot of specialists, and our specialists here in Maine actually are going to send us to Boston because they don't have any more answers for us. But Mark has something that looks like seizures or Parkinson's, people would say, but depending on how the episode happens and what's going on. But he has days where his brain is just very overloaded and sounds are too loud, smells are too much, touch is too much, and all those things can set him off, where he then can't move certain muscles. He gets stuck, for lack of a better word. My mom has mentioned that he looks like an Energizer bunny who has run down, like he'll be going, and then suddenly he'll just stop. And so it's hard if you've watched our channel. Both of us have what a lot of people would call like a silent disability. My walk is different, but it's not as different as my dad's was. My dad had the same thing. So people might not notice from that. And because I do almost everything, most people might not notice that I have a disability. And for Mark, he can be totally fine one day, and then the next day you'll see him and he's a totally different person, just in the function of what he can do. So that makes it challenging because some people would think he's not disabled, because you might see us on a beach one day with the kids and he's playing in the sand with them. We don't go to the beach often, but I'm just making an example. And then the next day he can barely walk across the house. So again, it's a little difficult. It could be the next minute. It's not necessarily days in between. And so like if you see us in some of these videos with a wheelchair, we take that both for him and Josiah, and I'll explain Josiah in a minute. But if we go somewhere, like when we were in Tennessee, we went to the zoo. My mom bought us a pass, and we would go to the zoo and we'd take the wheelchair with us. And more often than not, Mark left the zoo either in the wheelchair or pushing the wheelchair because he needed the stability of being able to get to the car by holding on to it. So that is difficult and something we deal with on a daily basis, every day. If you see us in the evening, it is amazing if you don't see Mark having a problem, because as the day wears on, it gets worse and worse. Some people have different, like we have a friend who has dystonia and she has a hard time in the morning. For Mark, it's better in the morning. It's worse as the day goes on. And then you'll also see that we talk about Josiah. Josiah is our child who just turned 11 today. He was born with cerebral palsy, but we didn't know about it until he was 10 months old. They did some testing, however they do this, I don't know, but they determined that he had a stroke in utero. And so we didn't know something was wrong, but there were some signs all the way from him being born that we saw, but the doctor always had an explanation. So like he always turned his head one side, but some babies can be born and through the birthing process, they get some muscles kind of pulled or kind of stuck. And, chiropractors can help that and things like that. But for Josiah, it was more than that. So there were multiple things we had mentioned to the doctor over time. But at 10 months old, we realized he wasn't trying to use his left hand at all. At the time, you would think of a child, grabbing at toys. He was just very slow in everything. He wanted to just watch the world go round, which was fine. Samuel was our child before that. And he had been a slow wanting to crawl and walk. He had some very doting siblings who didn't make him do any of those things. So I didn't find it that strange that Josiah wanted to just be held a lot and watch the world go by. But there were these different things. And at 10 months old, they determined he had cerebral palsy. And then at almost 4, he started having seizures, which was in the scar tissue of his brain. So your midline of your brain is supposed to be in the middle. That would be midline. His is off to the side, and the small side is where he had the stroke, and it is mostly white scar tissue. So like if you look on the CT scan or MRI. It's mostly white, like scar tissue cyst, that's where the seizures are happening. So it's not happening in his healthy brain tissue. His bad side of his brain, the damaged side of his brain, is always misfiring. When they did the MRI, you could see that it was misfiring the entire time. But every once in a while, the non-affected side joins in on the misfiring, and that's what causes his seizures. So he has grand mal seizures. If you followed our channel, he had 5 to 7 grand mal seizures every day last summer. Like the start of last summer was having 5 to 7 seizures a day. We, over the course of last summer, took him off medication with the doctor's permission because they decided he was a failed medical trial. We had tried 4 medicines at the top dose, and it wasn't helping him. And taking him off the medication has actually caused less seizures. So we have emergency meds that we keep for him if he has seizures that don't stop, and we know the doctors to talk to and all of that stuff. But for the most part, he lives a fairly normal life here at home, and we just treat the seizures if they're really bad. But if he has seizures, like last night and the night before, he didn't sleep very well. His lack of sleep and seizures go together. I'm not sure if the lack of sleep causes seizures or the seizures cause the lack of sleep, but the two go together. And so the past 2 nights, he hasn't slept well and he's had seizures. But today we didn't have any seizures, like the big seizures during the day. So maybe we'll sleep tonight. I don't know. But those are the disabilities that happen on our channel. We have just some other more minor ones. I know they can be major in some children's lives, but we deal with a little bit of ADHD and things like that. But we've kind of found things that have worked for them, and neither of them does it affect. I mean, it affects your daily life, but it's nothing that makes it so they can't function in daily life, I guess is what I'm saying. And so, yeah, just wanted to give you a quick overview of what our family is like disability-wise. So thank you for joining us on Herding Little Cows to the Glory of God.